Why was the student confused when he went from English class to math class? Because he was taught in English that a double negative is bad, but in math it's a positive. Remember, we saw that on our test last week, so it's funny. It's funny. All right, so today we are going to start learning about linear relationships. And we've talked about linear relationships before. This isn't the first time. We're just gonna take it to the next level. So when I look at that word linear relationships, those first four letters make the word line. So these relationships are gonna be, if I graph it, it's gonna be in a straight line. I have a video to help you guys remember the form of a linear equation, y equals mx plus b. So here, let me open this in a new window. Ladies and gentlemen, the masked singer! Student, there's no need to feel down. I said, student, pick yourself off the ground. I said, student, you know it can be found. There's no need to be unhappy, student. There's a lot you can do. I said, student, when you don't have a clue, you can do this, and I'm sure you will find many ways to graph a line. It's fun to graph the line. Y equals mx plus b. It's fun to graph the line. Y equals mx plus b. If every is the y-intercept, and the m tells you the slope. Graph the line. Y equals mx plus b. It's fun to graph the line. Y equals mx plus b. You can graph a straight line, yeah. It works every time if you get 1, 2, 3. You guys, there's a lot. The math singer, it's really me, Miss La Rosa. Please remember that linear relationships are in the form y equals mx plus b. You better believe if you're in my class, you're going to be singing that. And I know I'm really good at singing and dancing. That's all right. You'll get there someday. Someday you'll be as good as me. All right. Jacka wants to dance too. Bye. Hopefully you got as big of a laugh at that as all my friends did that slide and all the teachers that have seen it before. It's pretty amazing. So when I talk about the form of an equation, like it says up here, this is technically called slope-intercept form. But in our class, there's other forms, but we're just going to talk about slope-intercept form. So whenever I ask you for the form of an equation, I want you to say y equals mx plus b. Y equals mx plus b. Remember, m and x, they're side by side. That means we have to multiply. The form of our equation is y equals mx plus b. The y is the output or the dependent variable. You guys have seen that before. Y is the output or the dependent variable. Remember, it's on the vertical axis. The m and the x, the m is the slope, the change, the coefficient, the unit rate, the rate of change, the constant proportionality. There are so many different words that we use for slope. That's all. All those words mean the same thing. They are all referring to that m, the slope. The x, that's your input or your independent variable. Input or independent variable. And then b is your y-intercept. B is your y-intercept. So on this slide, you can click and drag all of these to where they belong. Again, x That's your input, your independent variable. B is your y-intercept. All those different words are your slope. And then y is your output, your dependent variable. So here in this equation that we have at the bottom, y equals 4x plus 9. My output is y. In these equations, they're just going to be in this form, y equals mx plus b. Y is just going to be the variable y. It's the output. The m, that's my slope. It's the number in front of the x. So here for this situation, my slope is 4. My x, my input, is always just going to be straight x like that. And then my y-intercept is that whole plus 9. Whatever sign, addition or subtraction in front of that 9 or in front of that y-intercept is going to go with it, just like we talked about when we're combining like terms. If there's an addition or subtraction in front of a number, it goes with the number behind it. In this problem, again, y and x, they stay the same. They stay the same. The slope, that's my number with the x, and the y-intercept is the number, whatever I'm adding or subtracting. In this situation, my slope is a -2. A -2. Remember, the slope is whatever comes in front of the x. Plus 8, my y-intercept. So that means it's a +8 for my y-intercept, not a negative. Whatever that plus or minus in front of the y-intercept goes with it. If you need to watch the song again, here's the link for the song. You can go ahead and watch it, but we're not going to. Now, looking at these examples, I want you to put this blue circle around the slope. Put the blue circle around the slope. Like we talked about up there, the slope, that's the number in front of the x. That's the number that goes with my x. So here, the slope, the number in front of the x is 1/2. So there's my slope. And then my y-intercept is my +6. Remember, the plus or the minus that's in front of that y-intercept has to go along with it. Make sure they stay together. Try this one on your own. -4x minus 10. What is the slope? What is the y-intercept? Pause the video and take a second to do that one on your own. For this one, my slope is -4. Remember, whatever's in front of that number's got to stay with it. So my slope here is a -4. The x is going to be a -10. Again, if there's a plus or a minus in front of that b, it has to stay with it. It's part of the y-intercept. They've got to stay together. Go ahead, take a minute, do these 3 on your own. Same thing, blue circle around the slope, red square around the y-intercept. Pause the video. I'll give you guys a minute to get those done. The first one, my slope is 3. My y-intercept is a -12. You've got to bring that subtraction sign with the 12. My second one, my slope is a -2. The negative in front has to stay with it. My y-intercept is a +5. And then my last one, this last one's tricky with the slope. It says -x, but I need the number that's in front of that x. What number do you think is imaginarily there in front of that x? There's really an imaginary -1, and that would be my slope. -1x. Again, this one, -1, or that one is imaginary. I'm gonna make that a different color. That one is imaginary. So the slope for this problem would be -1, and the y-intercept would be -7. So what do all these numbers mean? What does that mean for my graph? What is the slope on a graph? What is the slope on a graph? What is the y-intercept on a graph? The slope, what letter is that in the equation? The slope is my m, drag that over. Slope is my m in the equation. Slope is how much the graph changes between points. How much the graph changes between points. So first we want to think how much the graph goes up and down, up or down. And then we think how much is it going to go to the right. How much up or down is it going to go? And then how much is going to go to the right. So we see on that graph down at the bottom, we see we go up 2 to the right 3, up 2 to the right 3, up 2 to the right 3. The slope is that constant number that keeps happening over and over and over again. The slope is that number that keeps happening over and over and over again. We'll work on calculating what slope is later, but right now I just need you to know that it's how much the graph changes between points, how much up or down it goes, and then how far it goes to the right. And the last one, the y-intercept, remember that is your b in the equation, y equals mx plus b, and that point is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Where the graph crosses the y-axis. I see on my example down there, my y-axis, that's the vertical one, the one that's in red. My y-intercept or my b is that point at where it crosses. So in this example, my y-intercept would be 1 because my graph, my yellow line, crosses the y-axis at 1. If you have any questions on this, let us know. Otherwise, get into your practice for the day.